Hey, today we're going to talk about how you can secure your Dropbox like a pro. So let's get started. Hey guys, let's talk about how to secure your Dropbox account. So lots of people use their Dropbox account for lots of personal files or personal information that they don't want leaked. Or it could even be bigger, like you could use your Dropbox account for business information or something like that. So we're going to talk about how I would recommend you lock down your Dropbox account if you really need to lock it down. The first thing is the obvious. I'm just going to suggest you'll have to have a strong password, right? Make it preferably a strong passphrase, like a sentence. Use some numbers and special characters, and make sure that you don't use that password in any other system. That's probably been said to you before. If it hasn't, do that. The second thing is you need to turn on a multi-factor. This is where things get a bit trickier because a lot of people have been doing an SMS multi-factor system. So they'll log in with a username and password, and then they get text on their cell phone with a code, and they use that code to then do the second factor. And that's better than nothing. But if you're being targeted, or if you have really important stuff on your Dropbox, SMS is just not sufficient. One of the main ways I've seen SMS being compromised is attackers will call your cell phone provider and pretend to be you, which is relatively easy, you know, name, date of birth, address, those kinds of things, and then get the phone number ported to a cell phone that they have in their possession, so a SIM card that they actually have, and then they can get your SMS codes that way. So if they already know your username and password through a lot of different methods, like a phishing attack, or if the password is compromised from another system, like if you use the same password for like Yahoo or Facebook, as well as for Dropbox, and the passwords got compromised over there somewhere, then they know your username and password, they can get your code from your SMS, and now they're into your files. So one of the ways that you can protect against that is with a YubiKey or some kind of physical token. So today we're going to walk through how to set up your Dropbox account, go through a few different security settings that I think you should look at, regardless if you're using a physical token or not, and consider getting one of these. I'm not sponsored by Yubikey or anything like that. Other people make these hardware tokens. I've used these for a few years and have had really great success. I don't recommend it for all users, and I don't recommend it for all applications. But if you have really sensitive stuff, say in your Dropbox, then I really highly recommend locking it down with a hardware token. You could also go further. You can use an authenticator app or something on your phone, and that's going further than SMS, but that's not going as far as a hardware token. And there are some security flaws that can be found in those apps, so the Google authenticators or other authenticators. So is it much more secure in my opinion than SMS? Yes, but there's nothing quite like having a hardware token that's off the internet that only gets plugged in when you need it, and then that's what gives you access to your account. So let's jump over to the computer and create a Dropbox account and secure it using a hardware token, and look at some of the other security settings that you want to consider to make sure your Dropbox account, and more importantly your files, don't get compromised. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my Dropbox account here. Let's get started on how to lock it down using a YubiKey, and we're going to lock this down really tight. So basically the only way to try to access it is with a YubiKey or with the recovery codes. So you can see here I'm logged into my Dropbox account. This is a fresh Dropbox account that I've never set up with two-factor, and we're going to go through those settings now. So click the account, settings, and then security. So here you can see instructions on how to set up a two-step verification, but as soon as we turn it on, it's going to ask us whether or not we want to do SMS or either use the mobile app or some other form of security. So let's go through that process. First, you have to enter your password to reaffirm that you are who you say you are. And then here's the big part, right? So you can use text messages, and if you're going to do anything, at a minimum, use text messages. But like we've talked about in some other videos and earlier, this is not the most secure way of doing something. It might work for many users, but we are seeing attacks on the text messages, whether through SIM card hijacking or phone number hijacking by calling your carrier and getting SIM cards moved over, or many other ways, getting viruses on phones, stuff like that. It's relatively difficult, but it's getting easier. We're seeing people successfully get other people's codes through SMS. So it's not the best way. So we want to use a mobile app, but we're not going to actually use a mobile app. We're going to use a YubiKey. So mobile app, again, you can use a mobile app like a Google Authenticator, or there's a lot of authenticators you can install on your phone, scan the QR code, and then you'll be able to log in that way. But another way of doing it is we can put the private key on this physical YubiKey, and unless this is connected to a computer, you won't get the codes. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we'll launch this Yubikey Authenticator, and we're going to say we want to add an account. So here it scanned the QR code, it scanned my screen, it found it, and then it's automatically added it to the key. So I hit add, here is the codes. So I hit next, and I can go ahead and copy the code over. And it says, hey, do you want a backup phone? Again, keep in mind, like the backup numbers or recovery email addresses and things like that can be your weak link in security. So if you really want to lock this down, don't put backup phone numbers or backup email addresses in here. If you're worried you're going to lose your YubiKey or your recovery codes or something like that, then you can put them in here. But again, keep in mind, we're trying to do this for the best security. So this can become a weak link in your access to your account. So we go ahead and hit next. Now here's the recovery keys. And this is where we want to try to keep them safe. So go ahead and print these. This is what I typically do is I'll print them and I'll store them in a safe. And then those are my 2 ways into the account. Either these recovery keys, which are physically protected, or on a YubiKey, which again is physically protected. And unless that's plugged into a computer with those codes, you're not going to be able to get access to the account. So we'll go ahead and hit next. And boom, now it's turned on, right? So now you're secured. And now you get these other options that you only get once you turn on your first 2-step verification. So one of the other options here is using security keys. So I'm actually on a VM, and this is why I like the Yubikey Authenticator more, because I can't easily pass the YubiKey down to virtual machines, remote desktops, anything like that. So, or even something simpler. This particular YubiKey is a USB-A. Some computers have A's, some have C's. Some people don't have any more ports free. So if you're finding you're flipping between computers, it can be a pain to like try and find a USB port that can plug it in and do the actual security key authentication. Where if you do the Yubikey Authenticator this way, this can also work on your cell phone. You can install the app on your cell phone, and you can just plug the key into your cell phone. I use the USB-C ones, plug it into my cell phone, or you can get NFC ones that can just hold up to the back of your cell phone, and then the Yubikey Authenticator on your cell phone will give you those codes. So then again, it doesn't matter if I have no ports free, or the ports aren't right, or whatever it might be, right? Like, or it's a virtual machine, remote desktop, doesn't matter. I have the code here on my Yubikey Authenticator, or I have it on my cell phone, and I can access whatever account it is that I want to access. I go ahead and pull the YubiKey out, and boom, you can see the codes are no longer being displayed. So you can use the security key method. You can go ahead and add those there. I don't personally recommend it, but that's a personal choice. You could absolutely do that, and then you just go through the steps of adding the key, and then what you do is when you want to log in, you just plug in the key, you tap the gold disc to tell you that you want to authenticate, and it authenticates you. My preference is to use the Yubikey Authenticator for the reasons that I just stated. It's just I find it a lot easier to use. Here's your backup method. Again, we haven't added that because we want to really lock this down. But if you wanted to change your mind, you could do that. Here's your recovery codes in case you lost them or whatever you want to do. You can go ahead and print those again. If you did lose them, I'd recommend just recycling your recovery codes. Okay, so here we have the recovery codes again, so you can just print those again. But if you did lose them or misplace them, I recommend just generating new codes, so that nullifies the old ones, and you go ahead and print off this new sheet and add it to your safe or whatever it is. And then you also have your trusted devices, so that's anybody that's already been authenticated. So if you have your cell phone, you go ahead through the first step, and then you'll be able to have a trusted device, and then you could revoke that access later if you've changed your password. So this is how it goes through the web interface. So now that we've done this, let's actually install Dropbox on this computer and set up the account using the 2-factor. So dropbox.com. Okay, so we're just installing Dropbox now, and then once this is installed, we'll go through the authentication method using the 2-factor on the YubiKey. Okay, perfect. So now we've got Dropbox installed, so let's go ahead and log in. Demo@gmail.com. So I'll enter my username and password just like I normally would. Now it's asking for those 6 digits. So here I have my Yubikey Authenticator app. I'll plug the YubiKey into the computer. I can get the code, copy it to clipboard, paste it into this virtual machine. I could submit the code, and then that's it. Now I can add this as a trusted device, and I'm ready to go. So, and again, if we go back to our security settings here, we can actually go ahead and see that this computer was added, and we can go ahead and either unlink it. But again, if you want to change your passwords and start from scratch, you could go ahead and hit revoke all. It'll revoke all the access to all computers, cell phones, everything like that, and then it would all need the two-factor one more time. But once you've done it once, you don't need it again. So that's basically how you lock down your Dropbox account. This now does not have a backup method, so it's secure that way. You only have your recovery codes and your YubiKey code, and because you're using the Yubikey Authenticator, it will work very easily across multiple machines, virtual machines, remote desktops, whatever it is that you need, because it's just generating that code either on your computer or on your cell phone. And now your Dropbox account is secure. Okay guys, I hope you find that helpful. If you use Dropbox, consider using those security measures. Definitely make sure you have a strong password for everything. Use strong passwords for everything, but don't use the same password. And then second to that, make sure you use some kind of second factor authentication and try to get away from SMS. Almost all of my accounts now, I'm away from SMS authentication. Either I use an authenticator, or for my crown stuff, I use what I call my crown jewels, my really, really critical stuff. I use a Yubikey or some kind of hardware token. And so consider that for your accounts. Consider some of the other stuff we talked about, like consider when you use a recovery codes where you store those, or when you use recovery email addresses or recovery SMS, how those can actually be your weak points to your security. So we have a lot of videos about these items. I talk about how to secure your Gmail account. I talk about how to secure your AWS account if you happen to use AWS. So I'll throw those videos in the link below. The other thing I'm going to do is I have a video about how to secure your Lastpass account. So if you don't use a password manager, or if you use Lastpass, check out that video on how you can really secure that, because Lastpass is a password manager. It will help you keep your passwords unique, but then you really, really want to make sure your Lastpass is secure. So we're going to talk about how to secure Lastpass with a YubiKey as well. But if you use sensitive files in Dropbox, consider picking up a YubiKey. They're like $50 on Amazon. They're not very expensive, and set that up for any of your crown jewel stuff. So if you found this video helpful, thumbs up, comment below. We do a lot of these. We talk about cloud products. We talk about consumer products and how to secure them. And we're going to cover as many of these as we can. Every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. we do a new video. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of these. Thanks guys. Have a great day.